Crime in Chicago is the focus of a roundtable discussion in Chicago with Mayor Brandon Johnson and Police Superintendent Larry Snelling. It was the People's Plan for Community Safety citywide second quarter meeting, and the mayor and the police superintendent taking a look at a variety of different things and tactics being used to try to address the crime in Chicago. We'll hear some of what those two officials had to say yesterday during this roundtable discussion. But if you go to the Chicago Police Department's website, you'll find the statistics, and I do want to go through some of these statistics with you just to give you a sense of kind of what they're looking at. So these are the CompStat week 25, and it reports a variety of different crimes that are happening. Murder, criminal sexual assault, robbery, aggravated battery, burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, we talked about in a recent segment with Illinois in Focus Daily, and also shooting incidents. And you could see here there's a lot of red marks, which indicates an increase in these crime categories. And there's some green marks as well. More of the short-term types of marks. But for murder, you do have a 4-year average, police are reporting, of a decline of 19%, and that's the 4-year change. The 3-year change, 23%. The 2-year change, 17%, and so on. You can see those numbers. Criminal sexual assault, though, over 4-year change, 23% up. Robbery, up 29% over 4 years. Aggravated battery, up 7% over 4 years. Burglaries down 17% over 4 years. But the 3-year change is 40%. Theft, up 81%. Motor vehicle theft, up 165%. But shooting incidents reportedly down 18%. So Police Chief Larry Snelling, he talked about some of those numbers and the crime trends that he's seeing and reporting on this yesterday during this roundtable discussion. Here is the superintendent of police in Chicago.
We talked about technology. What we've seen is an uptick in robberies over the past 2 years. We're seeing it trend down a little, but not enough. We talk about the homicides being down. We talk about the shootings being down, and they are. Things are trending in the right direction. If we brought it down to one homicide, we could say that's beautiful, it's great, but tell that to the family of the one person who was the victim of the homicide. So what we want to do is focus on everything to make sure that we can maintain a level of peace in this city and bring some safety to you. I am not promising you that this is going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to solve it overnight. But what I will tell you is myself, Chicago Police Department, will be working their fingers to the bone to make sure that we keep all of our communities safe across the city.
So again, Larry Snelling, the superintendent of Chicago Police, with the mayor yesterday, talking about how to address crime moving forward. We also yesterday, with the segments with Illinois in Focus Daily, talked about the violence intervention grant that is in the state budget. It's $180+ million that's going to be put aside for going to nonprofit agencies or groups like those who go out and try to interdict violence on the streets. But Mayor Johnson yesterday also talked about increased funding in other aspects to try to combat crime in the city of Chicago.
When we have our budget process, I need all of you in this room to participate with a level of aggressiveness that matches the moment of urgency. There are forces who refuse to accept the fact that in order for us to transform our communities, we have to have fully funded neighborhood schools. We have to ensure that healthcare and mental health care is available for our people. We have to build more affordable housing. We have to make sure that our young people have real opportunity to thrive and grow.
And some of that includes the $180+ million for youth summertime jobs. So the state budget, state tax dollars going to go to Chicago with these strategies that they say will be implementing to help alleviate the crime. But what's interesting also is where other resources may be better spent. A report from WirePoint talks about if you're shot, robbed, or assaulted in Chicago, there's a 50-50 chance There'll be no police to respond to your 911 call. This is from Ted Dabrowski and John Klinger and Nick Benatti. In Chicago in 2023, more than 1,800 calls were made to 911. Of a person being shot, only about 800, fewer than half, were responded to immediately by police officers. The other 1,000 callers were victims of 911 backlogs where no police were available at the time of the call. Those victims had to wait half an hour, or even several hours for the 911 call backlog to end and for police to finally arrive. So maybe, that's an area where more money could be spent or just on law enforcement officers as well. Snelling, the superintendent of police, he also talked about outreach and getting out into the community to better interact with those being impacted by violent crime.
We're working closely, especially even in this community now, especially with the conflict that's going on over here right now, with our outreach partners. It's extremely important to understand what they're dealing with and what they're going through stepping out here. Just like police officers' lives are in danger every single day, when we have people who step up and they want to intervene and they want to bring down some of the violence that's going on in this neighborhood, especially as it's related to gangs, these individuals are also putting their lives on the line, as we've seen. And I can tell you this right now. So when you're standing up for your community, it's dangerous. It really is. It's dangerous to stand up for your community at times.
And Snelling also talking about the condition that police officers in Chicago are going through when they get out there and try to address criminal activity and behavior, saying that police officers are humans too.
What you may not know is when our officers are dealing with wide-scale protests, they're dealing with a lot of verbal abuse. In some cases, sometimes physical abuse, things being thrown at them, things of that nature. And we have to make sure that our officers are well rested, properly hydrated, that they're eating. Because if we have an officer out there who's dehydrated, fatigued, malnourished, we know that cognitively that officer may not be there 100%. And what we have to understand, and I've said this a million times, these officers are human beings who will have a human reaction like any other human being if they're not trained to do the work that they're doing.
So Snelling talking about humans being human beings, and police officers are human. But some of the other efforts underway with Chicago police during this roundtable discussion yesterday alongside Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, it's the People's Plan from the mayor's office for community safety.
We talked about technology.
He talks about the efforts of targeting certain types of crimes.
We will be looking at those locations where we're seeing the most crime and the most violent crime. We will be focused on that. We're building better cases. So when we have people who we know are very violent repeat offenders, we will be trying to get those people off the street as soon as possible, and we will try to keep them off of the streets. Because we know that when we have someone out there who is causing harm to families, that could lead to retaliation, and the crime is just ongoing. So with the overall approach, I think we're going to have a more effective way of getting this done.
So clearly, a lot of questions still remain on how exactly law enforcement are going to be impacted by the ongoing crime, but also how they're going to interact with large gatherings.
And listen, we want to make sure that we don't go overboard when we're handling young people. We know that in most cases they're probably following something on social media, and we do want to be careful, but we do want to make sure that they understand that we're not going to tolerate violence. We're not going to tolerate vandalism. We're not going to tolerate them going into neighborhoods and destroying things. So as soon as we see crimes being committed, we're on top of it immediately, and we're not going to allow that to continue. If we can divert them to some other location where they can do something more productive, we'll do that.
So some of the tactics, some of the conversation from yesterday's summit of sorts with Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson and Police Superintendent Larry Snelling. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, go to America's Talking Network on YouTube, and find that and more news clips, stories from across the country, not just Illinois. But you can find video segments as well. Again, America's Talking Network, part of the Center Square as we continue to grow and expand, and I greatly appreciate you being part of that. So like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and read up at thecentersquare.com. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop.